All right, probably the best episode I'm ever gonna do. This is like the Rogan takeoff. When I started the podcast, this is literally what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be having my friends on and just talking about anything we wanted to, but it helps to have somebody who is knowledgeable when it comes to the fitness industry and arguing with trolls on Twitter. And so it is Kreg Henritzy. Did I say it right?
Nailed it.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
nailed
Let's
it.
go.
I said don't overthink it.
I know. But we have Kreg on. Kreg is a friend that I met through Angus Bradley's mentorship. Shout out Angus. Hopefully he listens.
Shout out Angus.
Shout out Angus. We have another friend named Bartek, and we have just like a nice like three corners of the world, kind of like triangle of like friends from the mentorship. But you are the more tolerable one who doesn't worship Andrew Tate. So yeah. But Kreg, tell people who you are.
Hi, my name is Kreg Henritzy, as Jack so perfectly pronounced. Currently, I am an account manager working in the pharmaceutical marketing industry. I'm on the agency side. I've been doing that for about 13 years. I pondered a career move into training about 2019 and then quickly kind of put an end to that after the pandemic and just kind of continued my way, and then had this crazy idea to go back to school to be a physical therapist. So that's what I'm currently doing right now, looking to get recertified as a trainer, and then also get all my applications in and hopefully get accepted to PT school.
Hell yeah. And you're having a baby. You're not having a baby, but your wife's having a baby.
We are having a baby. Yeah. She's halfway through. She's at 20 weeks. We just had the 20-week scan. So very exciting stuff, like the full anatomy scan. So I was kind of geeking out on everything. Like we saw his femur, which I guess is what they use to kind of like measure size, hands,
longer heel bone. Yeah. That's how they measured it back in the day. History repeats itself.
But it's pretty crazy. Like both ultrasounds, he's been super active. So we've gotten to see him like move around and like kick and stuff. So nice. Yeah, it's a very, very cool kind of surreal experience.
I can imagine. I'm not even close to that. I'm literally so far from that. It's not even funny. But I have nieces. Reveal. I have a nephew and a niece on the way. So I'll get, I want boys in the family. I grew up with sisters. I didn't have like a ton of like male cousins, so I don't have anybody to like do jujitsu with or like box or wrestle in the yard or anything.
Yeah,
he's 25 years younger than me, but
he'll get there. He'll get there. Young and spry when he's of age, and you can beat him up, and then maybe eventually he'll turn the tables on you.
Eventually, I'm gonna do the Brian Johnson, not the Liver King Brian Johnson. I'm gonna do like the hyper optimization. We'll get into that eventually. But so the first thing I wanted to talk about was your Instagram bio, because when I was going through and looking at your content, the limited amount, which we'll also get into, I came across your. Have you always had that bio, or is that like a new addition?
No, I changed it recently. And funny enough, like I always trash like getting served ads and stuff. Mm-hmm. It does work. Like that's a really effective way to like market any of your content and supplies and stuff. But yeah, like I saw a shirt and that was like the front or the back of the shirt. I have it. I haven't worn it in a while because it's a little small on me right now. But yeah, that was the phrase, and I was like, I just loved it. I think before that I also had one that was kind of cool, and it was from Mad Men, Roger Sterling. It was like not to get too deep before the cocktail hour, but do I need to tell you about the finite nature of life? So those are kind of like two major philosophies that are kicking around in my head.
Yeah. The New York happy hour, or the New York lunches, I guess.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I worked in DC, I was working for a startup, which I guess like DC is kind of like where startups go to die, because I know friends that have started companies there, and then they just get kind of sucked into like the vastness of like, I don't even know what it is about DC, if it's the politics or whatever. But like, I remember going there with, it was funny because it was the CEO, myself, who had worked there for like 2 months, and then like two other guys, and the CEO of the company is like, yeah, we doing beers. And he was that type of guy, and And I was like 20. I was literally 21 at the time. And I was like, sure, I'm a fresh, spry guy who can order a beer at a restaurant legally for the first time over the last 4 months. And so we did lunch beers. And then it was like literally 11 o'clock on a Friday. And we just didn't go back to work. Needless to say, that company is no longer in existence. But I'm sure the guy had a great fucking time while he was doing it. So more power to him.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely balance it out. I've had my fair share of boozy lunches when I, lived and worked in New York. And like, I don't know, that's kind of the big city kind of way of things,
Mm-hmm.
People work long hours at these high paying jobs that are like super high stress. And when you can kind of pick your spots and knock off and have a good time, like you definitely want to take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. Cheers, by the way.
Oh yeah, cheers.
I'm drinking LaCroix for your boy, lime flavor. Craig's got a Guinness. This is the first of. I want to come up with like a name for these because we're gonna get Bartek on here eventually, and we're just gonna go completely off the rails. But I think this is a good kind of like slow burn with it.
What was Bartek's group name?
New York C words. I don't want to drop the hard C. They use it is crazy how it's crazy how often they use the C word internationally, because here it's completely frowned upon, I feel like.
Yeah, what's a term of endearment internationally?
It is.
Whereas like there's things we probably say that are really insulting for people, but that's kind of the it's New York Titan absent Washington C word.
Yeah. And I'm not even in Washington. Close.
I'm not in New York anymore. I think it was just the weekend he came in that you blew us off at. So
I did blow you guys off. I'm sorry.
It was short notice.
I know. I'm gonna get up there. We'll have another I think he said he's coming here for the UFC event, but I'll be at a.
Yeah, he's trying to pressure me to go down there, but like, first of all, I've been to a bunch of the UFC events in New York. Honestly, it's like any other sporting event. It's better to watch it from the convenience of your home, like on your big screen. Like there's no commentary. You have all the people doing the woos in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It is cool to like definitely go for one just to kind of experience it and like see what it's like in person. It's a good atmosphere.
I've never been to a fight, but I would picture it. Like with the intros and everything, you might want to like just jump through the screen and strangle me when I say this, but like I would compare it to like a pro wrestling match almost. Like everybody's got their entrance music, the lights are kind of going, and then like they walk in, but instead of like a staged, performance, it's like a fight. It's like a legit fight with blood and like two guys trying to kill each other. So like that's, I think, part of the buildup. But like I watch the walkouts, and I like, if I ever need like a little bit of juice, I'll watch like pitcher walkouts as it relates to, my niche. But like watching UFC walkouts, like that gets my fucking balls tingling. Like that, like it is like when I was like on the Patty train, like when he was like, when he had his whole thing, like he had that sick walkout against, what fight was that? It was like the one where he was dancing out, like, like, and he had already had all.
I think it was one of the UK cards, right? Or was it before that?
It might have been, yeah. I guess it had to have been because he was on his home turf. Yeah. So that would have been the. Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name. He had drug problems. He was in recovery and he had drug problems prior, and then he came back and was like he's like one of the top 10 fighters in his division. Bald guy, beard.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I think he trains with. I think he's at a Henzo's.
Yeah, and that was the fight that
Jared Gordon. But Jared Gordon was the last
Jared Gordon.
I thought he fought. I thought he fought some like no-namer, because it wasn't on the Volkov Aspinall card. I don't know. It's all melding together. Honestly, like this year's been just so nuts. I can't even keep it all straight.
Yeah, seriously. It would be sweet to watch John Jones fight, though. I would say that. He's like a Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant type, like, like I'll never forget the first time I watched LeBron play live, the first time I watched Kobe play live, first time I watched Peyton Manning, Tom Brady play live, Mike Trout, Shohei. I wore this jersey for you because we were talking about the Japanese athletes. And I have one now, and he's very, very meticulous about what he does. And like, I read up on, I was reading like some Way of the Sword stuff, and just like the way, like the whole like Samurai Japan, which is what they call their team, like how they approach training. And it's literally like you will not make mistakes. You will do something until you perfect it every single time you do it. And they do not take losses well. Like it
No.
is. I mean, I think that blending some of that into our culture here would definitely help. Like, I think it's good to like be gracious in defeat, but I think we're getting a little too comfortable.
Yeah, I think we could definitely take a page or two out of Japan's book. My exposure to Japanese culture is mostly through movies and seeing professional athletes.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, if you've seen The Last Samurai, like I think that ethos is still kind of there with like just being really methodical and precise. I mean, we shared that Instagram video about that like master stone skipper, which is like the most mesmerizing video ever. But yeah, Shohei is killing it right now. Maybe
well,
he's
done for at least the next. Well, as it comes to pitching, he's done for the next year. He's having Tommy John. But I mean, nothing would shock me less if he goes out next year and he's like, okay, well, I can't pitch, so I'm just gonna hit 80 home runs. Because he probably will. Like he's a freak. And the thing that's crazy about him is like everyone wants to point to the culture in Japan as to like why he's so good. The thing that's different about Japan and working with a guy over there now is like they don't really lift weights. It's crazy. Like they have weight rooms, but strength training, and as it relates to like, you know, everything that we're probably going to get into here and just like everything that kind of connected us, like training and strength training is like so popular here in the States, especially when it crosses over to like sports performance. But over there, everything is based on like the skill. It's like everything that we're going to do is based on the skill. So they'll have 4, 5, 6 hour practices. I'm like, how do their arms not fall off? Well, it's because they've been doing this for the last 18 years. And like, they've just developed this incredibly anti-fragile system that can withstand making 600 throws a day without their arm falling off. And it's just crazy because now he comes over here to the States. He's never had arm problems before. And now he's had 2 TJs in the last 5 years. It's like, what does that say about how we do things? Like, maybe, are we doing things wrong? Like,
I don't know, but it's like, how is that training structured? They certainly can't be throwing full tilt like every practice, like hundreds of reps. Like I'm sure it's progressive, and I'm sure, you know, they have their intense days and non-intense days. I have no idea, but I kind of, in terms of like my training philosophy, I'm kind of like leaning towards that myself, at least like being into jiu-jitsu, and one of my main sports that I like to focus on being MMA. Like I think sport skill really is the thing to focus on, and then everything you do should supplement that in some way. And like, yes, like you should most certainly have a general physical preparation approach and tick all the big boxes, and like have those sessions at the appropriate times in the year that kind of get your athlete the characteristics and qualities that they might not be getting in their sport, but like it should be like really skill focused. But then again, like early specialization and over specialization is kind of shown to, or at least supposedly shown to create some overuse injuries. I think you see that a lot in like youth baseball. So I don't know. I think there's still a lot of data and case studies that need to be done on like which is better. But
Kreg, if you save youth baseball, you will be a billionaire. And I don't want to get into the arguments quite yet, but like even in the last like 5 days, I started training in a new facility, and there's dads that come in and they're like, so what do you do? That's the first question, which gives me AIDS. And I'm like, I'm a pitching coach. So do you work with guys in person? Not right now. I work with guys online. How do you do that? Okay. How much time do you have? It really doesn't take that much time. It's like, I work with guys who are self-sustainable and actually want to get better. I don't force feed things down an 8-year-old's throat and tell them what they need to do. I let the 8-year-olds through 14-year-olds go and play outside. And as a one-off to this, are you familiar with Greg Saunders?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Standard Jiu-Jitsu. Look him up on Instagram after this. But Praise Thorson, we're going to make some connections here. Praise Thorson is another pitching coach. He's with Connected Performance. He got me into Greg Saunders and like ecological dynamics approach to training. So like something that I'm a very big fan of, and something that Praise is a very big fan of. And Joe comes had him on his podcast as well. But he talks very much about like the ecological dynamic approach to training is like basically all they do is spar. And like the way that they're going to learn is basically like, yeah, you'll learn a move and like, okay, the goal for the session today is you're going to spar and you're going to try and work this move in somewhere. Like we're not going to drill. We're not going to like, we're not just going to like do some sort of like meditative role. It's like, we're going to give you a problem to solve. And then you have to solve it based on how you would do it as an individual. And then like, they just watch you and they figure out how you solve problems, like how you solve movement problems. I think that's something that's so lost with like pitching. I get so frustrated with it because you try and like force guys into thinking there's only one way to throw or there's like perfect mechanics, but there isn't. We're compensators. And that's like what I loved about listening to Greg and like watching some of the videos that they have, because it's literally like, you figure it out, we'll help you, but like you're going to do it in your own specific way. You see that in MMA all the time. Like, big, small guys, like they have their own specific styles and they just got really good at doing things their own way. And they had like a little bit of help along the way.
Yeah, I think you see that a lot with professional sports too. And a lot of guys' techniques and stuff. Like, there's so many examples of unorthodox. I mean, look at Usain Bolt. Like, he doesn't have the prettiest running form compared to like some other sprinters, and like has all these imbalances and adaptations in his body. But like, that's what makes him fast. And, you see that in football with people's techniques, like coverage techniques and stuff. It's just, yeah, I think, yeah, you got to build yourself up physically and like mentally, and like really know the ins and outs of the game. And then once you kind of have that grasp on it, I think you have to find your kind of own way in. I've definitely experienced that with jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm pretty short, I'm pretty thick. Like, a lot of my instructors were like the tall, lean, like perfect, like jiu-jitsu archetype body style, and like I just can't play the game. Like, I can't do the three sisters, like the triangles, the omoplata, and the arm bars. Like, that was always like really tough for me. I kind of have to set up triangles in my own way. But yeah, I think that's something that's lost in sports. Before I get too far ahead of myself, I do want to actually contradict you on what you said with the dads. You shouldn't approach it from this like place of like annoyance, unless they're actually like coming at you with attitude. You should use that as an opportunity to like refine your like elevator pitch. And I hate saying that because like that's every business Instagram account that's
marketing guy. I get
dipping into the platitudes, but like you should have like a good response and come off as professional and like whatever fashion you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, no, like the guy I met this morning, he like I said that from a place of like, me trying to be the heel, of course. But like in reality, like they genuinely do like want information. Like, I love those conversations. Anytime anybody takes a vested interest in like what I'm doing and like wanting to get better, I will take that conversation 10 times out of 10, middle of the night, 3 a.m. Like, I don't care. Because I coach from a bedroom office, like anytime I can have a face-to-face conversation or work with someone one-on-one in person, like I'm going to jump at that opportunity. I haven't done it in 2.5 years. So I think it's more like, there was a video that came out. I don't know if you saw it, but like everybody in the baseball industry just jumped on this guy. This guy like took a video in the parking lot of a dad throwing his kid BP, and the dad is just berating the son. He's like, "This is why you can't hit. Like, you're terrible. Like you want to do this. The kid's like 9 years old. Like, the kid can barely hold the bat over his shoulder, and the dad's just like giving it to him. And I like, you see less and less of that now, just because I think most parents and coaches just have like an internal sense of like, don't be an asshole. But the issues that I have, and like you said, like it is an elevator pitch, but like, I don't like talking to parents who reach out who are like, you got to help my kid. Like, I want to hear from the player. Like, I want to get better, because I know I've been right 99% of the time up to this point. Like, if a parent comes to me and they're asking for help for their child, the child's not going to be very receptive and is just not going to be as committed and like as compliant when it comes to like following a plan and staying committed to it, because it's not coming from them. And I get it. Like, I remember being that age and like communication stuff.
Yeah.
Even harder when everybody has a phone in their hand now. But I guess that's kind of like where the underlying like frustration really comes from.
Yeah, it sounds like that's not really kind of your business model or your approach. Like, I think if you had a different, like if you had your own gym, you had coaches under you, you had kind of like a setup where you're trying to be like a baseball or like trying to be like Cressy Performance. Where are you at? In Maryland still?
Yeah, Maryland.
Yeah, Cressy Performance of Maryland.
Yeah, there you go.
Jack Barry Performance. Like, I think you might want to lean in and like help in the area, integrate with the community and stuff. But yeah, you want to work with people that want to work with you, and you also want people to be compliant because that's who's going to get you results. And like, if you have a kid that's kind of half-assing it, like the parent's going to blame you, and
yeah,
it's not all on you.
Yeah, I've dealt with that for a while. It's the same way with any industry for that matter. Like everybody wants the best for their kid. It comes from a good place. Just sometimes they don't see the human on the other side of the receiving end, I guess. Yeah, I mean the in-person stuff is definitely the goal in the future. I'm excited because this off season, now that I'm in like a less distracting area that's a little bit closer in proximity, like I wouldn't call it a hotbed per se, but like there's more baseball players in the area that I'm in now, Annapolis. And so like doing a lot of the in-person stuff like with the youth teams, and I think that's important to also like maintain a connection with, because if you're only working with the 18 to 24 demographic or like the 25 and up demographic for that matter, all of your conversations and worldview is going to be based around them. When in reality, like a lot of the things that you learn and a lot of the things that make guys elite to when they do get to the 16, 17, 18, 19 college age is like a lot of those things that they learned when they were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, like playing in the backyard, enjoying the game, and like having impactful coaches. Like some of the most impactful coaches I still have relationships with today, I had when I was super young. And like I can name them off the top of my head. I can remember their face. I can remember what they said. And so it is really important. It's like good perspective to have as a young coach to be like, yeah, the sexy side of like training is like training the pro guys, training the college guys, the guys that throw hard, the guys that can lift a ton of weight. Maybe not the sexiest thing in the world or like the most fun thing all the time is to like train the youth population, but it's just as important because you can get just as much value and just as many ideas and like put enough tools in the toolbox by training them as you can by training an older population.
Yep.
We're all just humans at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think just getting the breadth and depth of experience with, different levels of population is good. Circling back to fixing youth baseball, my nephew I think he had a fracture in his lumbar spine because he pitches and he's just turned 13. And like I was talking to my sister about just how many games he's played, and like it's ridiculous. Like he was on like 3 different teams. When did that change? I mean, I stopped playing baseball when I was 12 or 13. And I remember them being like travel leagues and stuff, but like I don't remember all of these showcases, like, and maybe it's just not my area in northeastern Pennsylvania where I grew up, but like, has it been like that forever? I'm like, I can't believe how much baseball he was actually playing. And then she's like, yeah, like coaches make them play, or like coaches really influence them to sign up. It seems like it's a bit of like a business racket and also like not good for the kids.
Yeah, the crazy. So a couple thoughts. Like I started playing travel ball when I was 7.
Wow.
Which looking back, like it was travel ball, but we didn't go anywhere out of the state for that matter, but we played tournaments every weekend. So every weekend you're playing 5 games. You got a couple midweek games in there. So you're playing, 6 games a week, which for a 7-year-old, like that's crazy. You still got school. Like, God, who knows how much you're sleeping, but like, I didn't have a phone or anything at the time, but like, I even think now, like how overstimulated kids are. Like, yeah, it's good for them to like get outside and just like do something active that's not behind a screen. And I think that that's super important, but yeah, it is a business model. Like the more games that you can fit in a weekend, that's more cash. It's more teams that are going to come into your, $1 million facility that has, we had like the Rippin experience. If you're familiar, there's one in like Myrtle Beach and there's one in Aberdeen where Cal Ripken's from, but they got 12 full turf fields. You don't have rainouts. You can start games at 8 a.m. You got lights on there. You can play games till 11 at night. if you can fit 100 teams in there for that entire weekend and every team's paying, $10,000 for the weekend, like, hell yeah, it's a business. Like, good on them. Great business model. Like, yeah, there's good and bad. Like, families can travel. They can kind of like take a vacation out of it. The teams get to play. They get to get better. The problem that I have is where it becomes like showcase ball,
Yep.
and like 13, 14-year-olds are playing in front of college scouts, or that's the pull. That's the advertising, great front end funnel saying that Texas A&M is going to be at our tournament, absolutely. We'll sign up and get our guys in front of, Gary Gilmore at Coastal Carolina, or, Tony Vitello at Tennessee, whatever. But it's definitely getting worse because like every field has lights now. Every field is turf. So they don't have rainouts. They don't have like off days for that matter. And it's like the more you can get in, the better. And for young guys, it's like they gotta have balance. Like I don't know what the statistics are as far as like burnout or kids quitting, but like it's a double-edged sword because there's never been more opportunity and more access to like information and resources and tech and things like that. But it also bleeds into the personal side of things to where it's like, I mean, shit, I've seen families torn apart over like travel baseball. Like, how stupid is that? These kids are 12 years old. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, like, that's so much running. I don't want to dissuade my kid from playing any sports, except probably football. I would probably push him away from that, just for the brain trauma.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a lot like the lumbar injuries, especially, which is like a really fun thing that's happening in like the baseball industry now. It's like people are understanding that the spine actually matters, and you actually need to like train spinal mobility and like oblique strength. And the amount of big leaguers that spend their off season doing payoff presses and like, goblet holds or, like some sort of like bullshit stability ball exercise. And then the third week of spring training, they end up with an oblique strain is nauseating. And like the guys that actually like train rotation are the guys that are fine for the most part.
Yeah.
Proximal mobility is distal ability, right?
Yeah, I think the phrase they use is what distal stability equates to proximal mobility.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do the McGill Big Three, you're set. That's all the core training you can, man.
Yeah. And like, I know David Weck gets a lot of shit, but like, he's like the first guy that was like, yeah, you need to rotate, you need to train the spine. So yeah, he's a little off the rails, but like, I get where the guy's coming from. And I'm like, he's not a bad guy.
I think Weck means well. I think there's a little bit of even a broken clock is right twice a day with him. Like, I think he kind of like, and if you listen to him, like, he's like on the money about the concepts he's trying to get across, but his explanation of it or the why behind it is often just fuckery. And it's all just based on feel. But yeah, I don't want to speak ill of Weck because he's an outside the box thinker and he's, trying to push the boundaries in the way he sees fit.
Yeah. You got to be kind of contrarian. Like, and that's like part of the reason he's been so successful. Like some of the guys that have just fully bought into like the Weck method, especially in the baseball industry, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to use derogatory terms.
It's the same thing with the who was is it Goda that came out of like Ricky Spanzi and like two businessmen. Like, I'm sure there's some stuff they put out, but it doesn't seem like it's grounded in any true science or biomechanics. And also, it's like you have a former college quarterback who I think played in the NFL for a little bit, and then like two guys that seem to be unrelated to the industry. Then they're just like business guys trying to set up the system and sell people. See, like that's the problem with the fitness industry, and like actually getting back to like the information overload and stuff. Like there is, I think, a vacuum of expertise, and I think there's so much information out there that normal people have a difficult time kind of navigating, and like you don't know what is good and what is bad. So you just get sold a line of bullshit. And like, that's why their marketing tactics are just so effective. And like, you just get these people buying in, and like, they might explain things to, the layman's satisfaction. But if you really dig into claims, like, most people just don't read. I'm finding like in my line of work and the general populace, like the pandemic is evidence of that. It's like most people don't read. Most people don't have any kind of understanding of the scientific method. And like, they just get locked into their biases in this like narrative that they've been given their whole life. Like, case in point, something that's pervasive in I don't know if it's the fitness industry, but just like in life in general, especially with wearables, the 10,000 step thing. Like, do you know how that originated?
No, I don't.
So it came out of a pedometer company out of Japan. And I think it was something they tried to package with an Olympics that was being held there, but it's like an arbitrary number. There's follow-up studies afterwards, I think, that cited a lesser step count was effective. But yeah, cool. If you're sedentary, like, get your steps in and stuff. That's good. But I would hope people would strive to be better and actually like get pointed aerobic, fitness, resistance training, like have a structured training program. And like, I don't know. I go back and forth on if I think NEAT is important or not.
So I mean, I've noticed like when I've been in this I'm like in a kind of weird phase, like with my own personal training, but like I just at this point, like I'm full guinea pig mode. Like I'll try anything. I'm talking to a bodybuilder tomorrow at 12:15 just to like pick his brain, like to ask him. And especially because like you're going to laugh. I see, Thomas Delar.
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay. Big YouTube, like he's interviewed Paul Saladino. He's like in that sort of like camp of influencer. Like but he puts out good information. He talks a lot about, and he was a 300+ pound guy and now he's like shredded. I don't know how much of that is hormonal. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like, yeah, exactly. He looks good. But he talks a lot about like visceral fat. And like one of my main like pain points is that like I've always been like in pretty decent shape besides like my freshman year of college when I ballooned up to 226 on the Oreo and peanut butter diet, which was fun.
That sounds like a fantastic diet idea.
I've said multiple times, like if it's ever a question on like some bullshit, tell us about yourself questionnaire, it's like, what's your last meal before you die? I'm like, give me a gallon of whole milk, a box of Oreos, and Jif peanut butter. And like, you don't even need to use the chair on me. I'm just going to eat them until I literally just pass out of, like whatever. And I just die. But anyway, back to Thomas Delar. He talks a lot about visceral fat. And I've always had kind of like a lot of fat around my midsection. And so I was like, what the hell? Like I'm hammering the weights. I'm in a calorie deficit. Like you can see my abs and I still have love handles. Like what the fuck is going on? I'm walking, 3 miles a day. I'm taking the dog out. I'm doing zone 2. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And so he talked about like how the combination, there were some studies put out, the combination between like zone 2 and then like high intensity cardio. So basically like I'll pair it with like assault bike intervals. And then I just started distance running because my dog needs exercise. So like, we'll see what happens. But that's, I think, to bring it back to the original point, I think that's like a good example of an idea that, and he's all bought into the idea that like, yeah, you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose fat. But all of his thumbnails are like, do this to lose fat, use this system, use this formula to lose fat, which is like something I try so hard to stay away from. But it's hard because it gets clicks and it gets likes, and like people just see that and they'll watch 5 seconds of the video and they'll like it and they'll be like, oh, all I have to do is eat, whatever. I have to eat prunes, or I have to, whatever. He's sponsored by macadamia company. I just have to hammer macadamia nuts. Like, it's just like you said, like people don't read, people don't do their own research. People don't use themselves as guinea pigs for that matter. They'll try something for a week and they'll put it off.
Yeah, and you just get this really like reductionist, like quick bite thing, and then that just becomes the narrative, and people just repeat things like the eating after like 8 p.m. thing. I remember like very vividly in college, like talking to this girl, and she's like, "Oh, I know all these like tricks to like lose fat," and I'm like, "Those aren't tricks. Like that's just bullshit. Like your body has no idea what time of day it is in terms of like meal timing. Like that doesn't. It's a non-factor. It might make sense if you have it before or after a workout. I can't speak to that definitively, but
when I was
trained, like the nutrient timing thing is kind of like shitty.
Yeah, like when I was training jujitsu, I was also intermittent fasting, and I would train at 7, and I would get done at 8:30, and I would eat my last meal at like 9. And I thought with the whole intermittent fasting thing, I was like, oh, I was in the Superdome, just like literally. And I was dealing with some like, mental stuff, obviously, and whatever. But like, I was trying anything to just clean it, just like give myself direction. I literally just didn't have a job. I was unemployed, and so I was like, that's why I finished. But looking back, it's like when I was intermittent fasting, I felt like shit. And, and like looking back, I was like, oh, the mental clarity was I was just anxious as fuck in the mornings, like because I didn't eat anything and I was just drinking black coffee for the first 6 hours of the day.
That's what I got out of it. Like I tried doing basically keto and intermittent fasting, and all I really got out of it was disordered eating and just difficulty with energy and concentration. Like I do not do well with low carb. I think the people that do well with it, I don't know, like have problems with portion control or like don't really have a good foundation in nutrition, and like they just, because it's high protein and high fat, and they're from the keto perspective, that's super satiating, so they don't overeat on like the crap. And then the other side of the thing is like you're giving yourself a window to eat. So you're probably getting, because you're eating these high protein, fat, like hyper satiating type of foods, and you're limiting the amount of time you're eating, like you're getting less calories and like you're hitting a deficit. But like most people, again, I don't want to like misquote or speak out of my, scope of knowledge, but I don't think most people get into like a ketosis state. Like I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, because it takes what, like, doesn't it take like 36 or 48 hours?
I have no idea. I'm not gonna begin to speak to it, but like from what I read and what I understand from like nutritionists that read the literature, like most of the people that get positive benefit out of either is just getting themselves in a caloric deficit, and then getting enough protein to keep their muscle.
That's why I love Stan Efferding so much. Because he's like, I think he hits the nail on the head with all this stuff. And I think he's just like honest. He's like, yeah, I look like this because I use steroids, but like, I'm also very knowledgeable and I do my research, and like, just because I did it doesn't mean you should do it. But like, he talks, like, I love his approach to where it's like the best diet is the one you'll follow. The best workout plan is the one you'll follow. Because like, I do think that like compliance is like the number one restrictor of someone being able to make progress. They just bounce around from thing to thing. They get shiny object syndrome, and they never actually stick to something long enough for them to actually reap the benefits of it.
I don't know why it's so villainized to use steroids. Like I think it's a negative thing when people aren't honest about it, because then you have all these unrealistic expectations in terms of what you can actually attain in with the natural body. And then it's like you just have people, it's the same thing as like the war on drugs. You just have people using in the dark that don't have the proper blood work done or like medical supervision to do it. Like if you want to get huge and jacked and like shredded, like use steroids smartly. Like, fine. If you're only aesthetic, it's not a problem. And it's not a weakness, because you still have to be disciplined with your diet and put the work in with the gym.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth, because on the one hand, like I would never use performance enhancing drugs. Maybe I'll go on testosterone if any of my levels start dipping, but I don't see a point. It's like I'd rather just like, it's me against the world. Like I'd rather just test myself and my own inherent genetics.
Yeah, like what? I mean, life's too short. I think you could take the approach of like, this is one of the topics that you put on, like hyper optimization, which we can definitely get into. But it's just like, but it's like, I also like the approach where it's like, if you want to perform at a high level, like you're not going to be healthy, like crushing your body to try and push the limits of performance is like one of the more detrimental things you can do, because you're literally like pushing your body to its absolute limit. And anytime you do that, you're going to risk injury, health problems, problems in your personal life as well. Like there's a host of shit that happens like when you fully commit. I love the whiplash scene where the guy is talking to his girlfriend. He's like, and it's kind of overplayed at this point because everyone's like, this is the mindset you need to have. And I'm just like, dude, go talk to a girl. Like, just relax. Like, just go have a beer with your friends. Relax. But like, he's just like, Miles Teller is like, yeah, like if I was to pursue this relationship, I would feel so empty because like I have more love for playing the drums than I do for you. Which, as a chick, imagine hearing that. Like, imagine what your worth must feel like. It's like he loves the drum set more than me. I feel bad for the girl in that movie.
I kind of have like a darker take. Like the movie's amazing. It's like honestly like one of the better movies I've seen in the last like 15 years. But everyone's like, oh yeah, like he showed his teacher like what was up and like made it. But like he changed himself to kind of bend to that guy's ideal, and then he ended up like wanting to gain his approval, which he did. So he kind of just fell into this asshole's philosophy and just did what he wanted to, and then like earned his respect. So it's like he won in the end, like, but I don't know. I had like a little bit of like a darker takeaway from it, even though I love the movie.
Yeah, what I took away is like do it for yourself. Because if you do it for someone else, you're just gonna go to that dark place, and you're never really gonna get out of it. Because the whole time the person's just gonna be like, "You did this for me, like you're a loser." like the only I'm grateful for coaches that have got on me in the past with that tough. That I mean, that's taking it to the extreme, but like a little bit of tough love, because at some point or another, they're gonna show you like it comes from a place of care, or it could also come from a place of their own inadequacy and like what they weren't. And so they're going to literally dedicate the rest of their lives and destroy their personal relationships and their own mental state to make sure that that never happens again. And they don't have to witness that, whether it's within themselves or within someone that they coach.
But you have to balance this so you don't become the dad yelling at his kid in the parking lot, taking, batting practice or pitching, whatever he was doing.
Yeah. That guy probably got bullied or cut from a team at some point. Like it all starts at the top, like,
yeah.
like someone's trauma is going to be placed on you if you're in that type of situation. And it's unfortunate. I think it's recognizing that. And I think that eliminating the external stress going into those situations is super important, which is like it's a good point going back to like the dealing with like not dealing with, but like talking to the dads, like if they're genuinely interested in like, a smart coach, or like, hearing new information, it's because they didn't have access to it. So it's not necessarily trauma. It's just like stuff that they didn't have that they're in awe of, or not in awe, but just like they want what's best for their kids. And so that's where it's very refreshing in that sense. It's where you're not having the over controlling parent trying to turn their kid into Mike Trout or whatever. So
yeah, and like that's why it's important to one, I think, have like respective industries police each other and like have some kind of standard out there, so you don't have these like asshole coaches or predatory behavior from a marketing perspective to just get people in your system that may or may not be good and just become kind of like blind disciples to it.
I want to switch gears to the optimal stuff. I want you to rant a little bit.
You want me to rant a little bit?
I mean, so like I was wearing a Whoop for 3 weeks up until yesterday. And I got what I thought was a good night's sleep. And then sure enough, the Doom band told me I didn't. I think part of it is that, excuse me, these seltzers are hitting. I think part of it was like, one, I was trying to see my heart rate for like the zone 2 stuff that I got into. I started wearing it over the summer when I was coaching the in-person team because I wanted to see how much I was actually sleeping, and it wasn't pretty. It was not a lot. But when I had John Creel on, he was in the Mariners organization. He's a free agent right now. He wears it like every day. And I've talked about it ad nauseum to where it's like, Yeah, it's if you approach it as like it's data, then and nothing more than that, then like I think it's useful. I just don't know how much use it has for like I think that the average person's trying to optimize when they just need to like pick up weight, put it down, exercise, get sweating, 6 times a week, and then just like live their lives because what do you need to optimize for? Like, I don't know. I just go off. Just go off.
Yeah, no, I mean, fuck optimal, first of all. Like,
Yeah, hell yeah.
Angus got me into Nassim Taleb. I didn't quite finish the book, but like, got through most of it and, have some pretty good takeaways from it.
That's
It's
not
like,
what the
yeah, like,
book's called, right?
what's that?
Or is that it's anti-fragile?
Anti-fragile, yeah.
Yeah.
Like building towards this perfect world or doing everything perfectly, like it's making you one risk adverse or just unable to deal with risk. And like yeah, like the same thing with like intermittent fasting and like eating keto. Like I think it creates a little bit of like neuroses and it's just ultimately like counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how accurate wearables are. Like I know wrist, like the pulse at your wrist isn't as accurate, I think, as the heart rate monitor that straps across your chest.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one, it's like you might, and then like what is the Whoop score like based off of? Like I have the same thing from like the tire thing. I've had days where I'm felt fresh and my energy. I wear a Garmin. I don't know what it is, but I basically use it to track steps, which I'm a hypocrite on tracking.
Nice.
About.
Hell yeah.
and heart rate variability, and then like sleep too. So I do the same thing, and I take it kind of with a grain of salt. But like I don't know how accurate that like energy thing is. It seems like some days I'm fully rested and it's low, and then some days I am not fully rested and it's at 100%. And it's to me like that's bullshit. And even if it's not accurate, taking pulse at the wrist, at least like you have the data to go off of. So even if it's wrong, and my heart rate gets up to whatever in a workout, I can still track how much it comes down to get an understanding of that variability.
Mm-hmm. So I had a Garmin watch. This is kind of a funny story. I had a Garmin watch in 2020. I went to Utah, and I was wearing a Whoop at the time, but I wanted something to measure my sleep because I was trying to optimize. And I think it's called the body battery.
Body battery. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like what I noticed just like from wearing the Whoop and then wearing the Garmin is that the Garmin was not as accurate as far as sleep by any means. Like I was sleeping in a tent. We were getting blasted at this campfire on Lake Powell. And then like the next day I wake up with 100% body battery and I'm like, I feel like I'm on 5. Like this is terrible.
Because I think it's based on movement
and
then also like heart rate.
Yeah. And it was
like breathing patterns. But that's an estimation because it doesn't have any kind of oxygen monitor on. It's just like based off of your respiration. So like, yeah, if you're hammered and you pass out, like you slept through the night, like it could, you wouldn't be going through like all the cycles, but it could like mimic that you've gotten a full night's sleep. But
yeah, the Whoop does heart rate variability, breath rate. It now does blood oxygen, but again, don't know how accurate that is. And then it also does like resting heart rate. So, I mean, sure enough, like the times that I did booze, or like one thing that I noticed with the Whoop is like when I would eat late, and I noticed it even when I'm not wearing it. Like when I eat a late meal, like within 2 hours before I go to bed, my recovery is not as good. I know guys that they can have 2 or 3 old fashions or, crush a pizza before going to bed and they wake up and their score's at like 96. I also know a ton of guys in baseball, at least, that wake up with red scores and then they go out and throw the game of their life. So it's like, it's just data, it's literally just data. But the problem became when I was wearing it, when I was like training seriously, trying to get back into pro ball, you wake up on like a heavy test day or like a heavy lift day and you're in the yellow or you're in the red or you didn't get more than 7 hours of sleep. And whether you like it or not, it's in the back of your mind. And then if you have a shitty day, it's like, oh, I didn't sleep well. And then if you have a great day, it's just like, oh, it doesn't matter. You just become so reliant on it where it's just like, and Unplugged by Andy Galpin, I forget who the co-authors are. that's a great read. That really changed my perspective on the wearables. Just on how like the dopamine circuits work with it, and changing the mindset of what you're exercising for, and just our mindset as humans towards exercise, and how like, yeah, it's great that everybody's like wearing these things and like tracking how much they move and exercising and prioritizing their sleep, but are they doing it for wanting to feel good and make their lives better? Or are they doing it because they want to wake up to a green ring on their phone?
Yeah. See, I just use it for the utility of like tracking heart rate, however accurate it is, tracking sleep, and then like logging my workouts too, which is helpful. But it's the pan out. It's like looking at the trend like throughout the year of how compliant I've been with stuff, and it's like I know when I'm not treating myself well, which has been like the last month and a half, just with going on at work and stuff, and it's just like compromising focus. But it's funny you say that. When I feel like crap, I tend to perform my best in the gym. Like all the PRs I've ever done are like good workouts have been when I'm like at my lowest. Like in college, when I bro PR'd and I basically hit like 3 plates on bench, 4 plates on the squat. I didn't hit 5 plates on a deadlift. I think I finished at like 465. But like I was viciously hungover. But I think it was just because I was like near death and I just sent it and like didn't care about how it was gonna look or finish. I think that helped me kind of get there, but I don't know.
The fucking mentality is so important.
Yeah.
Like literally, like no disregard for your body, like no disregard for how the outcome ends up being. It's just like, I'm just going to go and give it all I got. Go and give it hell. And like guys back in the 80s and 90s had to be, clerks or like accountants in the off season. So like they definitely were not near the level of performance that guys are now. But like those guys were crushing beers and cigs in the dugout, and like football players smoking cigs in the locker room at halftime, or like like naval boxers would do the same thing. They'd take a couple shots of whiskey before they walked into the ring. I forget who the guy is that does the shot and deadlift. I did a post on it a while back, but he's talked to he's talked to Mark Bell before. He's talked to Lex Friedman. And the weird thing is he's an alcoholic. He's like open about it. But his whole thing is like take a shot and do a deadlift. And his reasoning behind it, there's actually no scientific backing to it besides the fact that it raises your blood pressure a little bit, which would help with performance.
Yeah, the vasodilation. But yeah, it's probably negligible. I think it's probably like counterproductive, honestly.
Yeah. Like I saw that clip back in 2021 and I tried it before a pull down day and my numbers were like the same. And the only reason I tried it was because I was going to a concert that night and I was like, early start, here we go. Like I'll just, take a couple shots and then do my pull downs and then I'll just kind of keep going for the rest of the night. But his whole thing was like, liquid courage. Oh, you see a hot girl at the bar, you take a couple shots, you'll go talk to her. Same thing with the deadlift. And I'm like, not exactly, but I like the idea.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to try it sometime. I don't know.
Yeah. I love big ideas like that. Some of them are so fucking stupid. Did you see the guy on Twitter that was like shitting on the adductor machine?
No.
I replied to him last week. This is a good segue into the social media stuff. But basically one of these like money Twitter bros who like his profile picture is him with like a button up and sunglasses on smoking a cigarette in front of like a rented Lamborghini or something. He basically said that the adductor machine is for gay people. Like he's like, oh, if you use this as a male, you're gay. And then Dean Turner, the guy that I'm talking to tomorrow, the bodybuilder, he's a good follow as well. He replied, he's like, took the picture of his like profile picture and then he put it next to his like shirtless physique picture. He's like the guy that doesn't use the adductor machine and then the guy that does use the adductor machine. And he's like, he's a machine fiend, which I kind of like. Like I started doing the adductor machine before squats and I started doing like hamstring curls before squats and like my legs never felt better. I started shifting more towards machines.
I'm a big machine fan. Like my like fitness background was like it was mid 2000s, right? So it was all like the functional training. So I was like really big into like Mike Boyle and Cressy and like trying to use barbells and like dumbbells and all that stuff. But like I love using machines, especially the adductor and like the leg curls machine. Same thing. It's kind of gotten away from a lot of the like PRI style warm-ups and more into just like hitting a system with either rowing or doing the fan bike to get the heart rate up. And then like, because of, like whatever issues I'm dealing with my like knees right now, trying to just get the knees feeling good and greased, and then like progressively warming up with whatever exercise I'm gonna be doing that day.
Are you still rolling?
Occasionally, yeah. It's so crazy. Like I'm doing the typical blue belt disappearing act. I started in summer 2018, and like I would go 4 days a week. But it was just my wife and I living in New York. The gym was walking distance from my apartment building, and like we had a really good crew. And then 2020, I got promoted. I got my appendix out, and then the pandemic happened. So that whole year was just kind of like a wash. And then we ended up moving up from Boston to New Hampshire. And the gym that I go to, which I don't want to be a creonch and leave, they changed the evening classes. So it's at 5:30. So like I can't like usually duck out of work at 5 to make class. So it's like last year and then like the first part of this year, I was going maybe once for a class and then once or twice for open mat on the weekends. And then like now it's maybe like I'll go like 3 times a month. So trying to get back in the swing of things. But again, it's just not, I can make all the excuses. I just haven't prioritized it.
Any no-gi?
Yeah. No-gi is actually like Wednesday's usually, for whatever reason, the easiest day for me to kind of step out. So no-gi. And I've grown to like enjoy it a lot more than I had with gi. I still love the gi because I like the old slow man stuff, and I love pressure passing, and I really like Ezekiel chokes and the just like playing lapel game, like sleeve and collar guard. But no-gi's a lot more fun. It's faster.
Yeah, that's how I started, which I guess is kind of backwards. I started with no-gi, and I wrestled for like 1 year in high school, and I was terrible. And so I was like, it is kind of more like traditional, like wrestling, but what I discovered with no-gi is that like they looked at me right away, and like the coach or whatever hated me because I only showed up once a week to start. But that was because every week I would get a crick in my neck and it would take 5 days to go away. I'd be like, what am I going to do? So that's when I started training neck.
Dude, you got to tap sooner.
I know. I was a young, dumb, I still am a young, dumb, like classic guy who's going to roll with like a purple belt thinking that he's got his handle on, and then like not do any sort of technique work at all. Just try and like kill this guy. But
I can't remember who it was, but at my first gym, the guy's like, not tapping is stupid. He said, think of it like a chess move. He's like, you've made a mistake and you're accepting the technique. He's like, you're not submitting like to the person. You're submitting to the technique because you made a technical mistake. And he's like, if you roll like that, he's like, you're not gonna like try to power out of stuff and like get yourself into trouble. So it's always something good to kind of like play in the back of my head. It's like definitely in training for competitions, like you want to just go hard and fight out of the situation so you don't tap early or give up early or whatever. But still, it's just, I think it's better overall to really save yourself. Save yourself for the next roll too. Like,
yeah. Oh my God. My cardio was like, I was like, all right, we need to start prioritizing this. But my like enlightenment moment, like the enlightenment stage for me was when they looked at me and they were like, why do you not spend more time on your back? Because I have like a short torso and long legs. And the day I learned a triangle choke was like literally the best day of my life.
Yeah.
Because someone would get on top of me and immediately I'd like just try and get my legs on their back. I'd be like, all right, this is like my move. And it was like one of the 3 moves that I knew. And so that was literally just like my move every single time. And
yeah, dude, you got that tall man body. You got the prototypical jiu-jitsu build that like all the Brazilians, have or like want to have.
I know. I just couldn't use it to my advantage. Maybe in the future. Maybe like when I blow my arm out. I do want to get back into it, like really bad. I have a buddy of mine who was a catcher in college, similar build to you, like stockier, and he was like 220 at his peak, and he's like 185 now. And he's like competing, and he's like crushing in competitions. And he just got the bug, but he like always like super strong wrists, super strong hands, and he's always like, dude, come down for a class. Like, let's let's go to a class. I'm like, I have no interest in rolling with you. You are going to destroy me.
Like that's a misnomer though, because like honestly, some of the bigger guys are the most gentle because they do have that strength advantage, so they're trying to work out whatever they're trying to work out in the role. So like they're not going to go hard, and like the whole it's action reaction. It's all you get what you put into it in terms of just like the level of the role, the pace, the strength, the pressure.
Yeah, I always did have like a little bit of the like young, dumb, stupid, like just like squirminess about me. And that's where I think I really pissed some of like the
spazzy white belt thing. Yeah.
Spazzy white belt. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And like looking back now, the guys in the class were probably like, this fucking guy. And I also had long hair and a headband at the time. The headband would always come off. The hair was like getting all over the place. You know, I'm wearing leggings. So like any kind of leg lock, they were just like grabbing onto my leggings, like tearing them up. And they're just like, oh, sorry about that. Like, don't wear those next time. And I'm just like, I don't want to tear my knees up. Sorry. Like, yeah, I know. I was probably such a soft ass looking back. God.
We all are.
Okay. Yeah, I know. All right. So explain your approach to social media. So I'm going to like I said at the beginning of the episode, you're a smart guy. You're a very smart individual. You have a lot of opinions, and they need to be shared. This is me giving my. It's not a lecture, but it's me. It's my approach to how Kreg can become $1 million PT, strength coach. Just complete like. I don't even know. Like, you're just a smart guy. Like, start posting. Like, why do you not post stuff?
Because I don't have a goal right now. Like once I get into PT school and I start building the foundation that way, or if I end up getting certified to train and I start training people on the side, like I'll start posting stuff. I have nothing to contribute right now. Like I'm super laser focused on like my job right now because we're just going through a launch phase. Super busy. Like my wife, my house, planning for this baby. I just don't really have a whole lot of time to like map out what I want to do on social media. And I'm a very much in the camp of like, if you don't have something good to say, like don't just spam things. I will say, and then it's like, do I want to create a separate social media account for whatever business I want to? That's like really it. It's like, I don't think I want to use my name if I start a business. So I think I'm kind of reserving it for whenever I do get to that point. But I could start posting stuff because I do reply to a lot of posts when I'm like bored at night.
Yeah. Again, it's not about me; it's about you. But personally,
but I'm more for like arguing with people online because I'm petty.
Yeah. So before we get into that, like my personal anecdote on that is, I had a buddy when I left my old training job and like wanted to get in like sports journalism or just something different, like super burnout. I wanted to still train, and that's when I got into like jiu-jitsu. That's when I like was playing a lot of golf. I was just doing a lot of different things. And it always had like baseball undertones, but like I had a non-compete that I had to adhere to, so I couldn't do a ton of baseball stuff. But a buddy of mine was like, dude, just make a separate training Instagram and just like post your workouts on there. Like one, it'll keep you accountable. So like you'll actually go and like train. Like, yeah, is that probably the reason you should be going to train so you can post on Instagram? No, but like it'll keep you on track with your goals if you have goals, and just like, just you can share ideas, and it'll just keep you connected to like coaching if it's ever an industry you wanted to get back into. And that's what it really started out as. And now it's like that's my business, you know? And so like, even if it becomes nothing, it's still just like a living thing that you can pick up at any time.
Yeah.
It's a living project, in my opinion. And it's just like, I'll go back and look at like old posts or old tweets and think like, holy shit, I was so stupid. Or like, how can I expand on this idea knowing what I know now? And so like the content repeats itself. You just add on to it or like make things better.
Especially with some of the sites where they have like that time capsule type of
Mm-hmm.
feature, like Facebook, you can do that. Yeah, maybe I'll consider dedicating some more time to it and putting it out there. But I also think it's a smart strategy to have a big content bank and to post often, because like that's how you really monetize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like especially if you have good sponsors, like you want to get that stuff. But I think it waters down some of your content. Like people won't engage with it on a deep level. And honestly, there's like, I don't know how many accounts you follow. I've been on Instagram since what, 2012 or 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And like you just mindlessly like, oh, that person's cool. I that person. Like you end up having like 2,000 people that you follow.
Yeah.
And you just like, I don't know, it gets overwhelming the amount of stuff that they put out, and then you're trying to like track with it. I don't know. I like a little bit more of a methodical way to structure content. Like that's why I'm a big newsletter, like blog person. Maybe it's just because that was how it was when I came up in the world of the internet way back in the mid 2000s. But I'd rather read a long form article and actually like get a good takeaway out of it than like a snippet of like somebody doing something cool and then you see like a 5-point kind of a post. Like that's probably the avenue like I'm gonna go. Probably get a link tree set up, get a site set up, get some good thoughts, and like really just go a little bit like more long form, or at least like have a relevant kind of like newsletter. I don't know. I'm never gonna like light up the weight room like, you know, Will Rattel or like Blaine McConnell or even like Angus, like some of these guys. Like I just don't I don't have it in me genetically to like rip like 700 pounds plus on the floor. And like that's what people want to see. People want to see people do cool shit. And I think like with Instagram marketing, I think like those are the people, like there's a lot of just ethos with like looking the part and being able to perform to like get people in the funnel.
I have thoughts. For one, you're familiar with Connor Harris, correct?
Yes.
That guy, I mean, is that guy a weapon physically?
I have no idea.
I mean,
he might be more of a weapon than I am right now.
Well, but he's not posting videos of him, you know, lifting up heavy shit or doing crazy dunks or, you know, anything like that. He's just posting good shit. Like he's posting good information.
Is it good information though? Like I also don't like the reductionist, like try this thing and like it'll make you feel better, because it might.
Understandable.
It might. Like that's where I kind of, you know, maybe I'll feel differently like once I get through school, but I just like, I don't know that that's like that just mechanical focused approach with just like try these exercises. I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth. It's like
so the way that I approach that, for one, it's like I love like, you know, to keep mentioning him, Angus's approach to where it's just like you have things that you want to say, just say it. And like if these charlatans on the internet can post stuff, like why can't you? Like that's my approach. Like when I scroll through Instagram, it's like if all of these idiots are putting out stuff and I'm like, oh, that's stupid, that's stupid, that's stupid. Like why should I not be the one to put out something that I think is good and useful and has good information in it that somebody can take value from?
Yeah.
Because if they think that, like, why the hell shouldn't I think that? If I have good stuff to say, like, you know, I want to put it out there to basically be like, screw you, my information's better than yours, you know? So that's one approach. The second thing is like, I know guys that they're just elite physical specimens, but they couldn't coach a guy out of, you know, they couldn't make they couldn't, they just can't coach, you know, whatever it is, whatever analogy I want to use. They can't coach. They're just weapons, and they post that and they get a following. They add fancy graphics, they make t-shirts, you know, and that's just their like funnel, and they get guys in there. It's a very much pump and dump type scheme to where it's like, this guy looks cool, I'll work with him. Shit, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, I'm going to go somewhere else. But additionally, it's like, if you put out good information, some of the coolest people I've met have been through the internet.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? And like, if they like your stuff, they will share your stuff, you know? And so like, guys that I compete with for clients, I've developed relationships with because I like their posts, they like mine. And so it's become like very, you know, symbiotic, like, you know, friendship type deal, to where it's like, they put up something good, I'll share it. I put up something good, they share it. And that's how you really kind of like grow the, you know, the echo chamber, or like the sphere of like who you want following you, because the people who are going to follow you are going to be the ones that like your stuff. And then if they like it enough, they'll work with you one-on-one. And you want those types of people. You don't want to like chase virality, because then you're just going to get a bunch of like BS followers that don't really know who you are. They were just like, oh, I just think you're cool. And there's a bunch of bot accounts they bought off of some website or whatever. But the true like value, I think, comes from the people that like interact with your stuff, like your stuff, comment on your stuff, like can get value out of your stuff. And that's been like the coolest part of me to start posting, because I was never a guy that like was super into social media until I started like actually putting stuff out there and interacting with other people on the internet. And then it became like a two-way street where I was like, I'm going to produce things, they're going to interact with it, I'm going to start conversations, I'm going to get value from other people. And so it's just become like a nice kind of like environment to be in, especially when you work for yourself and you're by yourself for 10 hours a day, you know?
Yeah. You've really burned the ships. Like, I was
know.
impressed that you like made that quick turnaround, and like how successful you've been. Not that I didn't think you could do it, but yeah, you definitely do. I can't do that right now. Like, I have mortgage payment. I got to get my ducks in a row. But yeah, Maybe I'll start with, you know, Fit Kreg.
Yeah, something. You know, you have to put.
I gotta think of something punchy.
I use my legal name. You know, I don't even use my actual name.
Do you not go by Jack, like, personally? I forget.
No, I do. But like IDs, official documents, it's John.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably.
I've started introducing myself to girls as John, because I think it sounds more official.
John does sound sexier than Jack for some reason.
Yeah. And like, if they're like, oh, your name's not actually John, I think it adds a little bit of mystery, which I think girls like. But who knows? I've never been in a long-term relationship before. Who knows?
Yeah, that's okay.
We're trying everything. We're trying everything right now.
But yeah, once I have a good handle on the direction that I want to go, and I feel like I'm putting out like relevant stuff, I'll do it. But I want to take a little bit more of a measured approach. But I will say, like, Angus does like both. Like, he pumps out volume and also it's good things.
Mm-hmm.
I've rarely read a post of his that I'm like, why did he put that up there?
Yeah, and he also is like the guy that cycles back into like old stuff that he's posted, because I've been following him long enough now to where I'll post something and I'll see like 3 or 4 baseball players like repost it. And I'm like, you newbies, he posted that 6 months ago. Like, I knew exactly what he was talking about. But it's important because like it is good information that does get kind of like lost in the weeds somewhere along the lines. And so it does need to be revisited, which I think is also valuable. I think it's also important to note that like you can tell a guy in this example, like you've got a lot more real life stuff going on right now. And so for someone to just come to you and be like, oh yeah, you need to post 4 times a day and you need to like, you know, do all this stuff. It's just like, dude, it's not going to happen. This guy has a job. He's, you know, he's in school. Like it's just not going to happen. And so like if I was to sit here and just tell you like, no, you need to start posting, that'd be pretty hypocritical of me as a 26-year-old single guy with a dog working from my apartment every single day with, you know, minimal other responsibilities.
Yeah, but like I can also make time. Like there's no excuses. Like it's what you put your attention towards and like what you want to do. And like I just haven't really wanted to do that. But if I choose to, or if I should, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. But I also kind of like this idea again of like being a little bit more specialized and like finding your niche. And like I just don't think that's why I wanted to go to school to be a PT rather than be a trainer, because I think it's more interesting to me. And I think I can be more effective there. Like, I think there's a lot of really good trainers out there. I think there's a lot of good trainers that are kind of that bridge from strength and conditioning, into rehab or like helping people with return to sport. Like, I don't think there's a whole lot of the opposite. You also have a lot more tools at your disposal. You can put your hands on your clients and go that route. And I just think you have a stronger foundation. I think it'll help better inform approach and being effective as a, physical therapist and strength coach, whatever I want to do.
Yeah. How much time do you have?
I'm still good.
All right, let's keep ripping.
We can keep drinking.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about psychedelics?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Any initial takes that you have? I think we'll just kind of take it from that direction, because I do want to, I do see guys using it more for like Jokum, again, using it for like sports specific application, like skill acquisition. But also like the mental health stuff's obviously like super intriguing as well.
Yeah, I think personally, I was always kind of interested in psychedelics. Like, I dabbled with cannabis in college and like mushrooms for fun, and got like a lot of benefit out of it from a enjoyment perspective. I actually had a really bad trip coming out of my senior year of college because at the time my girlfriend was across the country. It was like our last hurrah in our college apartment. I didn't have a job lined up. Like, it was just really, it's all set and setting. But I just kind of went in with it with like the intent to have fun, and I just got rocked. We also were supposed to do it with 4 people, and one person tapped out. So we ended up just taking, the dose of mushrooms that would have been split across 4 people or 3 people. So it was just a really bad time. So I kind of stayed away from it for a little bit. And then I was pretty miserable with work, and found this organization I operated in the New York City area. And I did weekend ceremony of ayahuasca, which was really interesting. And then like the good thing about it was like in the lead up to that, like Joe Rogan had Rick Doblin on from MAPS, and he had all the other psychedelic people in the industry. So I feel like I had a little bit more of a mature approach coming into it beyond like setting the intention with the ceremony and having that kind of like organization around it. But got a lot of benefits out of it. I still think about it, which is crazy thing about ayahuasca is like sometimes you walk around and like something will like hit you. Yeah. And then most recently I've been dealing with some depression, and January I did a session with ketamine. So ketamine's legal now with associated psychotherapy. So you can get prescribed, go into an office and have a session. And ketamine's pretty cool. It's like a really gentle kind of trip. Like, it's quick too. There's not a whole lot of like deleterious effects. Like, it's not like an ayahuasca ceremony where you're puking and shitting. Nice. And it's lasting all night.
Yeah.
And then you feel like raw the next day. It's like a nice drop in and drop out. It feels super like grounded. And yeah, like I think the outcomes are pretty good. Like, it lasted for a while. I'm probably due for another one, but yeah, I think I've used psychedelics. It's definitely spinning my mind. It's kind of, yeah, been a big influence in the direction like my adult life has taken. I'm excited about all the legislations that's happening. MAPS is getting MDMA approved through clinical trials. So they wrapped up their phase 3. I think they're just getting their data package and submitting that. So they should get approved next year. So for the treatment of PTSD, you're going to be able to take MDMA. And I think ketamine's already approved for that. But MDMA is a little bit more effective from how it's designed from a pharmaceutical standpoint at the chemical level. So yeah, I'm super pumped. Like, I think, and it's funny, like Rick was like, sued the FDA in the 80s and like just wanted to practice as a psychedelic therapist. I think he's kind of like taking on a greater mission with MAPS to like just change the world through, the people that are able to take and participate in these, but like really try to help heal the world with psychedelics.
Yeah, I haven't done ayahuasca personally. I have friends that have, and they've had good experiences. Did it in South America. my two experiences, one was with my first was with MDMA, and I've used cannabis in the past, recreationally, just like, experimentation when I was younger. Started having like some pretty bad experiences, like some anxiety and just like, like panic. So stopped using cannabis. Haven't used it in like a few years now. But then 2021 was the first I did MDMA with a group of buddies, and I was in kind of like a weird spot where I wasn't necessarily like in a bad place mentally, but also wasn't like in a good place. I was just kind of in like this middle ground. And it was pretty profound. Like, it allowed for me to just kind of let go of, I guess that's why people do it. Just like enjoy like being present with my friends and just like appreciative of the moment that I was in. I was at the beach. Actually, both of my psychedelic experiences were in the Outer Banks.
Fantastic way to do it too. Talk about a great setting.
Yeah. So that was the first time, and it was great. It had pretty, long lasting effects on me as like I kind of like moved back and was just like away from my family and friends and everything, and just like allowed for me to just be appreciative of like the work opportunity that I had and just like what I was doing, and just kind of like feeding a greater mission. And then the weird thing about my mushrooms experience was I was in a pretty bad spot when I did it. I was like unemployed, no idea what I wanted to do, lack of purpose, like literally just like mental hula hoops every single day. Like, good, bad, like, trying to just basically like brute force my way into a good mood on a consistent basis. Tons of self-help podcasts, books, like, just like cold showers, intermittent fasting, like anything, and like never wanted to go the pharmaceutical route ever. Like, that was not even like, I never even approached that point. I can actually remember a time I was in Key West on a bachelor trip. And the first day we had a great day, hungover the next day, and just got hit with like the most aggressive wave of like anxiety and like panic ever. And so I literally scheduled a telehealth appointment the day we got to Key West, and like got an appointment. And within 40 minutes, I had a prescription for, it was some sort of anti-anxiety. It like wasn't
Wellbutrin or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it wasn't Zoloft. It might have been Wellbutrin because it was an antihistamine as well.
I honestly don't know a whole lot about it. I've actually like changed my stance on that. Like, I think I was very like anti. I mean, it's bad because I work in this industry, but I'm very like anti taking pharmaceutical therapies. But after like talking to my psychologist over the course of the last couple of years, like I think like they are. Some of them are like net beneficial for people to like navigate situations. I think like the goal with like any medicine is to try to like not be on it, but like it's helping you get through a bad time and it's a temporary thing, like it's fine. Or if you're on it long time, like my wife is on anti-anxiety medicine and it's been really beneficial for her. So
yeah, and I ended up getting it, and I actually never used it because I was scared. I was like, I don't want to get hooked on these things, or just I'm very like,
you have to worry about that.
Yeah, and like I didn't have the knowledge at the time. I was like, there's got to be a different way. Like there's got to be a different way, and that's like kind of when I got into like the more like, health, like Twitter and Instagram, like health gurus, holistic health people, like that type of deal. And I alluded to this in like that video that I posted. Like I thought that like I couldn't figure out like why I was having these like those types of feelings. It literally just came down to the fact that I didn't have like a greater mission or purpose, which is like it boiled down for me. I was like, holy shit, like how many people are going through that where they feel like they're just like stuck and they just like don't have that, route.
I don't want to minimize what you're going through, but like the way you were describing it didn't sound as much of depression as it sounded just like sadness. Like, did you have days where you like didn't feel like you got out of bed, like energy was just low for like weeks? Like it sounded like you were just like in a super dumps. Maybe you were in a depressed state.
Yeah, no. So like that's the weird thing, because like when a lot of people describe their depression, it's like they don't want to do anything. They had no drive. And even like when I talked to my therapist, she was like, people who are depressed aren't doing the things that you're doing. Because I was like, I was like working out like a fucking madman.
Yeah.
I was literally like looking for things to do. Like I was, texting friends being like, hey, let's go golfing, or like, like I'm gonna make this recipe tonight. Like, just like literally like tasks to do. And so I think in that sense, like, yeah, it was definitely like sadness, because at the end of the day, I'd put my head on the pillow and be like, holy shit, like my friends are living in the city, getting paid well, living their lives. I'm living with my parents and I have no job. I'm wiping floors at a gym, and like I have my CSCS, like I have like, I've got this huge coaching resume, like what the fuck am I doing? And so I don't know if it's like a person by person thing or whatever, and not trying to, make it sound like some like legit Rocky cutscene to where it was always just like, I'm gonna pull myself out of this, but it was always just like, and I think it came down to the fact that I had like a support team behind me. Like my mother was, she was huge in that, just because she always was just like, she gave me the tough love to where it was like, you need to do something. Like, okay, you want to start a business? Like show me, like do it, or you want to go get a job doing sports media? Like send 100 emails a day. It was never like, you're going to be okay, you're going to be fine. Like, and she did have some of that. But I think the thing that was more important for me was just like getting that purpose, getting that direction. Cause like, so I think it was more just like general sadness. I never had days where I just didn't want to do anything. Cause if I ever did have that feeling, I would just be like, no, like, let's get up and let's do something.
Yeah. I'm not a mental health professional, because I can't like speak to like the textbook definition. Mm-hmm. I think it needs to be like a little bit more chronic, but like everything's on a spectrum though too. But yeah, no, I'm glad you had some like task oriented solutions and like pulled yourself out of it. It's good. I think that's like helpful for a lot of people. Like I definitely get in modes where it's more, I need to like take care of some things and like really kill those vampires that are just kind of like sucking my energy away. Mm-hmm. Just addressing it. But then like sometimes it's kind of, I think there is like a little bit of like an aspect, whether it's like chemically or whatever, that you do need to have some kind of like intervention for, whether it's psychotherapy or pharmaceuticals or dipping into some psychedelics. I think it's hugely beneficial. But yeah, it's actually World Mental Health Day. So funny.
It is.
Funny you brought that up.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're having problems, if you're struggling, like go get help. There's plenty of resources out there for you.
Yeah.
The first step is always the hardest.
Yeah. I'll wrap up my mushroom thing because I don't think I finished. But so I did it at the Outer Banks, and that was like when I was going through a pretty rough time. And one of my buddies who's been like a fucking rock for me, he kind of went through it. He dealt with like some addiction, and he kind of like, he got himself out of it. And now he's just like, he's gonna know I'm talking about him if he listens to this, but he's just like your classic, like goes to his job, comes back, smokes weed, plays guitar, plays Call of Duty with his buddies, goes to sleep, does it all over again. He's like one of the happiest dudes I know. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. But when I was going through that experience, I was kind of like sharing with him, and he was also like a pretty important figure in like that Key West experience because he was there as well. He's like, dude, I've been through it. Like, I get it. Like, it was a different reason for why he was going through it than when I was, but he was just kind of like that. And I'm not a super religious person, but I do believe in somewhat of like divine intervention. I think that he was kind of like, the fact that I've known him for 25 years now, 24 years. And he's been at like both of those kind of times. It's been crazy. But we just like, he kind of walked me through, and he was like, with any mushrooms experience, he explained to me, it's like, you're going to have the peaks and valleys.
Yep.
And I was going through a serious valley, and then we started taking this walk. And as we came to like this pass to get out of the dunes, it was a full moon, and it was like the most clearest sky, like stars everywhere, full moon, like the waves are like lapping on the shoreline. And I had this moment that I'll never forget. And it was like, holy shit, what a microcosm for life. because I just had like one of the lowest lows of my life. And then this is like the most beautiful part of the experience that I've ever had. And so it's like all I had to do was get through that. And then there was like literally this light at the end of the tunnel. And so that was like my big takeaway from it, from the entire thing, was just kind of like the euphoria in that moment. And like I still kind of like went through the rest of the experience, kind of the ups and downs, but like that was the sticking point for me in that. So I would call it a good experience. I definitely, if I was to do it again, would do it under the supervision of a therapist or like an expert. But glad I did it, you know, because it was literally eye opening. So,
I mean, if you have good tripping partners and it's like in a controlled state, like you don't really need somebody. Like some of them definitely should be facilitated by, like with ayahuasca, like I think you should definitely have it as a part of a ceremony, or at least with like a group that's like in some kind of facilitation type of ideal. But I think like if you want to do mushrooms recreationally and like you're safe and you have, you know, a babysitter, like go for it. But that's beautiful that you had a moment like that and a takeaway like that. I think everyone kind of has some kind of just like eye-opening, you know, bigger picture, that greater like oceanic kind of feeling that like it's all going to be okay. Like don't freak out about everything. And being comfortable with the difficult times. Like that was my biggest takeaway from ayahuasca. Like there was a point in the second ceremony or the second night, I was just like over it. Like I was like, I don't want to be like tripping anymore. Like I'm so tired and stuff. And I kept getting these like rapid fire like visions of like discomfort. And that was kind of what I was thinking about yesterday. I'm just like, yeah, like this sucks right now. Like things are kind of like, I mean, everything's great in my life, in my personal life. I'm very thankful for where I'm at right now, but like I just feel shitty about it. And like you're not always gonna feel good about it. You're not always gonna be happy with everything. And that's okay. Like you just have to kind of navigate it and get yourself through it. And when we get to the other side, just appreciate those moments, the break in the clouds.
Have you experimented with like microdosing at all?
No, I don't. I think we're still kind of at the infancy of actually getting science backing things. Like some people seem to get a lot of benefit from it, especially from like a athletic perspective. I haven't seen a whole lot of utility in my own life, but maybe I'll try it out at some point.
I've only seen a select few people that have tried it and seen benefit of it. A guy I know, a friend, played lacrosse in college, and while he was in college, he said that he would microdose and go on runs, and he hated cardio, and he had double hip replacement, was always dealing with like some sort of injury. Yeah, it was tough. But he hated cardio because of like the wear and tear on the lower half and like running specifically. And he said that microdosing allowed for him to kind of take the focus away from that, and like get back to the original goal of like, I'm doing this to improve my cardio, which is then going to improve my performance on the field. And he was running through a rough part of town where he went to school. So I'm sure that kind of gave him some like, you know, dudes standing outside the liquor store like, hey, how you doing? Like I'm sweating my ass. I don't know. But he found a lot of clarity with that. And now he's studying Chinese medicine. Big cannabis advocate. So yeah. But he's got some great insight. I gotta get him on the podcast.
Whatever works, man. Like same thing with religion. Like it doesn't matter what you believe. I mean, whatever makes you feel good, like whatever kind of doctrine or discipline that like helps guide your life, and whatever tools you kind of use to like get there. Like, and that's kind of what I view everything, even like alcohol. I think of that as a tool. Like it's kind of ridiculous to say it. There's studies that back this, but like I work a little bit better when I have a beer. Like especially if I'm writing something or I like need to like do a little bit of like deeper concentration work at night. Like I'm pretty sure there's studies that talk about alcohol helping with like complex problem solving.
It's funny you mentioned that because I always think of like musical artists, and there have been people that have talked about this, but like one example I think of is Tyler Childers, because I'm a big Tyler Childers fan. And he is kind of the example, in my opinion, of a guy who like was doing a ton of drugs, drinking a ton, and his music fucking rocked. But like and it's like, it's sad to say, and that it's the case with like a lot of creative people, but it's like the demons kind of, and I don't want to say demons necessarily, but like he did have demons, but like
it's pain. It's like
yeah,
there's a lot of pain in like, and with athletes too. Like it's a great motivator. I mean, how many people have become really successful just because they had a horrible background and upbringing, and like they're trying to not be that way and be better for themselves? Like it's an incredible driver. It's an incredible creative tool.
yeah, Tiger Woods. I always think of Tiger.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean, and as I got away from drinking, and then kind of like reintroduced it, what I found was, to your point, to like where you have a beer with work, it's like the creative side of my brain just kind of like loosened up a little bit. And so like when I was in big barriers with like content, or I'm like, I don't know, I have no ideas. Like I'm literally just like in a rut mentally when it comes to like creativity. It's like I would go and have a couple beers after like a men's league game, and then I'd be driving home with no music, just like me on the road, and all of a sudden it's just like literally ideas just like left, right, and I'm like, holy shit, like that, it's a creative unlock. And so I, like you said, I think it does have benefit in a creative sense, and just like in a, to the point earlier about you hitting the PR hungover, it's like the fuck it mentality, to where it's like, yeah, it allows for you to talk to the girl, you know, metaphorically, and it allows for you to just kind of like let your hair down a little bit, and put on paper what's kind of in the back of your brain, but it's blocked by all the other bullshit that's kind of like, you know, creating that barrier.
Yeah, it removes kind of like inhibition, and then like the other things that are associated with it too is like you're out with socializing with people, so that stimulates a part of it. Or I won't advocate driving after drinking, Jack.
No, I know. It was only a couple. It was only a couple.
No, I know. But like walking, and like even like sober, like walking, or like just going for a drive. You need like people. We need to allow ourselves to like. I know it's such an overblown thing that people say, but you gotta like shut it down. You gotta get out of the box and like separate yourself from like cell phones. Like allow yourself to be bored a little bit. You'd be really surprised at like what kind of things come up. But yeah, most people like don't sit with themselves. Like they just don't have the, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking of how hilarious that probably sounded, where I'm just like, yeah, I crushed 6 beers and then got in my car and started driving.
Please don't do that.
I know. Yeah, definitely don't. It was 2 Miller Lite tall boys, so really it was like 3, but whatever.
Sometimes I wish like you could just like crack a beer when you're driving. Like you just have like a short drive. Is that a fucked up thought to have?
No, I mean, hey, if you move from New Hampshire to like South Carolina, that's like a legal thing you can do.
Wait, can
not
you
go? No, not
I'm
actually.
I'm pretty sure I saw an Instagram post from like Texas from like the 80s where a woman was like angry that they like changed the laws and like you couldn't like have open container.
Yeah, I think I saw that video. But I mean, shoot, you moved down to like one of the you know, the lower tier states. If you're drinking a beer and you pull up next to a cop, he's probably going to cheers you. Like that's the reality.
That's not good.
No,
I can't advocate for that.
No, me neither. But yeah, like a couple tequila sodas when I'm out with buddies, and I'll get back and like I'm just like, wow, I have ideas now. This is great. And it just like it, you know, when I was talking to a therapist and I was talking about like the struggles I was having the day after drinking, one of the 2 therapists that I have, he was just like, well, alcohol is just going to enhance whatever mood you're already in. And so like if you're excited to go out for a, you know, a night with friends, you have a couple of drinks, like it's going to enhance that experience. And so I think that's where it allows for you to be a little more present, just enjoy it. Not saying that you can't do it without alcohol, because I've done that too,
yeah.
But you know, a couple of tequila sodas does help, you know? So
yeah, I think like cannabis use is kind of the same way, except like this stuff is too strong anymore. And like if you're not a habitual user, you just get like blasted off into space with, you know, just a small hit. So
yeah,
stay away from it in recent years.
Yeah, that's kind of what my my approach has been. God, this is officially the longest podcast that I've had. This is great. And I feel like there's so much more we could talk about. This is great.
Yeah, I don't know how you want to wrap this thing. I actually do have to like duck out pretty soon, but
yeah. let's see. So we already kind of dove into a lot of these things. Um, what about like let's get back to fitness to kind of wrap this up. Um, the and I want to touch on fitness specifically, just because it is more generalized, not as much in the sport specific um sense. But I think overall the industry is in a pretty good place, and I think people are starting to shift towards more niche style trainers and more niche style training that kind of fits whatever their goals are. Um, but one of the notes you put on here was like fear mongering and large factions contradicting each other. What are some of the things that you've seen? You can list specifics if you'd like to. You also don't have to, but
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it. Like some of those like go to people or people that have some kind of like what's the words escaping me, but some kind of construct or company or training philosophy that's kind of coming from a business angle rather than like coming from somebody with actual experience and like ethos. I think those people get dangerous because they just get super dogmatic about stuff. Like it's almost like, you know, only Siths speak in absolutes if you're a Star Wars fan. Like I think only people that don't really have a good foundation or understanding of good training and fitness, like just do that. And uh it's so fucking backwards and like harmful. That's why I said, like, I think people that are good trainers need to, you know, do their part to fucking police and just like call people out and stuff. And, like, yeah, I go back and forth because it's like, on the one hand, they're trying to build a business and like have a life for themselves. And I'm sure most of them, it's coming from the place of like wanting to help people and like share their thoughts and ideas. But like on the other hand, I think some of them build it through attacking other people. I think some people build it through a lack of knowledge and are selling people a line of bullshit, and they're doing harm with getting them into this like dogmatic approach and like fearing going past, you know, 90 degrees of hip and knee flexion, like fearing doing like doing certain exercises and stuff. It's like anything else. I think honestly that at its core, if you can progressively overload, like everything works. But all the like science is out there. Like the Russians fucking did everything in the 80s. So yeah, like have the foundation of literature. Like there is somewhat like optimal programming in terms of the amount of sets and reps that you want to have a week to build a muscle, the amount of time intensity, you know, that you want to have doing your cardiovascular training to build your energy systems, even though it's not like I'm working, you know, this system with like this level of heart rate, or I'm working like zone 2. Like it's kind of a little bit more fluid based on like how dynamic our respiratory system is. But like I think I think like use the good foundational principles. Don't be fucking dogmatic about certain approaches or exercises. Like build a good, you know, malleable system, and then, you know, adjust and scale it like based on the population that you're working with, you know, their training level and like whatever their goals are, their sport is. I think, yeah, like the guys that I like don't have that approach. They're a lot more open. They'll, you know, take things or agree with people, or just leave it a little bit more open-ended. And then by that same token, I'm sure when they're working with their clients, they're taking a more individualized approach in terms of like what they're implementing.
Yeah, I think the people that, well, the coaches that I've seen that are the best, they get really good at solving specific issues. And I think that's kind of like where they find their niche, or like what separates them from the rest of the industry. The ones that I see struggle are just very general in what their approach is. And that leads them down a dark path of like, I'm just going to do whatever the industry does. And a lot of times the things that are most popular are the pump and dump schemes, and like the things that are so general that it's going to work for a small percentage of the population that are super untrained or don't have specific things that they're working towards. And so therefore it can work. But, you know, I think of like the Jake Turas, who, you know, if you have knee pain, I have this program. If you want to jump higher, I have this program. If you want to get jacked, I have this program. You know, Angus, I have the GPP program. If you have no direction in your training and you just want to get, you know, fast, strong, explosive, I have this. Brady Volmering has, like, you know, he works with a lot of like injury clients, DAC Performance Health. Like, he works with a lot of, like, you know, guys with throwing injuries coming back from that. And those have been the guys that I've seen build a like an anti-charlatan sort of like approach to, like, even their approach to social media. Like, they just post whatever they want when they want, and they attract the clientele that they want and that are dealing with the issues that they can actually help them solve. And then your product just kind of speaks for itself because you've gotten results from everybody that you've worked with. And then you can actually show people, like, yeah, I actually help people. I don't just like sell this, you know, general product that you can buy that's just a funnel for like my seminar or whatever. Like,
yeah, because that's what it's all about. It's like, and those people get niched or find their niche or whatever because they've been solving a specific set of problems for a long time, or they're training like this type of athletes. And like that's how Cressy built his whole gym up. Like, I think Eric played baseball and like tennis, but like just because of the clientele they had, they kind of became like the shoulder elbow guys and just built an expertise, and like they just did good work. And they were 3 good business minds between Eric, Tony, and Pete. And like that kind of spoke for itself. So it's like build your business based on trying to achieve like mastery and expertise and having a good foundation. And don't make it about the marketing, because like that people can see through that bullshit, and then it's not genuine, you know, which people can also see through. Yeah. So yeah, just don't be a force for good in the world. Like, I don't know. I'm such a fucking hypocrite because I'm such a jackass online sometimes, as evidenced by me being permanently banned from Twitter. But like, yeah, like try to be nice to people, try to like interact and help. But like most people, you're not gonna be able to help. You're not gonna be able to change your opinion. They're gonna be locked into their little echo chamber. So all you can do is just express your point of view and defend it.
Did we have time to talk about you getting banned from Twitter? Because we didn't really dive into that
at all. It's honestly not a story. Like, for the amount of like vitriol and like snarky responses I've had on there since I joined in like college, it was a really innocuous comment that like got me banned because of these new policies that they rolled out in June. It's nice. Honestly, it's embarrassingly stupid. It was like there was a post about somebody. I think it was either in like San Francisco or like one of the cities that's like working towards like repealing a lot of laws, and it was like somebody like stealing something. It's like, what would you do? It was something. I lie. I think it was somebody stealing a TV out of somebody's house. And it's like, what would you do? Yeah. I was like, shoot them. Like, if they're not stealing something, I mean, if they're not threatening you, there's probably no legal grounds to like do that. But like, it was an offhand comment. Like, yeah, that was considered. Well, somebody reported it, so then they probably wouldn't have flagged it just with their. But it wasn't like shoot that person or kill that person or like incite violence or something. Yeah. But yeah, when I was talking to my friend that I don't know if he got banned. He got banned for something. It takes a long time to like appeal it and stuff. But I've been happier being off Twitter, honestly. Like, I really just use it to get like immediate sports news. Like, it's the best place to get fantasy football updates. If like who got injured on Sunday. I don't know. Like, somebody went down. Oh, it was Kelsey. I was like, what happened?
Oof, that guy.
I can't wait for the Goda guys to come out and talk about floating heel training or whatever the fuck they talk about.
Yeah. Did they work with him?
No, they just came out in droves when the Aaron Rodgers injury happened.
Oh my God.
Because too much planted heel work caused that Achilles tear. Jesus Not the fact that he's like fucking 39 years old. He's got a lot of miles on him. And like, he had a pre-existing ankle injury, which does seem to potentially lead to Achilles injuries. Yeah. And like, he had a fucking 250 something plus lineman. Yeah. Trying to torque him and throw him down. Yeah. And it's like his foot got planted in a weird way. And like, I don't know. That's what I'm talking about. Like, do no harm. Like, don't come out of the weeds and like say that you can solve this, because you fucking can't. Because injuries are non-predictive and multifactorial. Like, I think some things you can kind of like train to try to circumvent, especially with like a lot of soft tissue stuff. But like, yeah, like you can't fucking prevent injuries. Like, they happen.
Do you think blaming the turf is a valid argument?
Shout out to Derek Hansen. He actually published because he's been like tracking this for years, and he's obviously into speed work and training athletes at all levels. But he, I think, has accumulated some data over the course of years, and then he had a big article that he wrote that was just about like his thoughts on the potential causes of Achilles injuries, and he had this like 10-point construct, and he cited a bunch of decent resources. So if you can find that, I'm sure if you just look at like Derek Hansen, like Achilles article, but it was like previous injury was a big factor that he's seen, like early specialization and like over specialization, which we kind of like touched on earlier. And then like, I think he had some like notes on like training, his stuff on the turf, which was, sorry, I lost the point I was trying to make. The stuff on the turf was like, it doesn't matter. And he was looking at the NFL specifically. Not every NFL field is the same turf. So there's no good control from like that standpoint anyway. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that like feeds into it. Age, pharmaceuticals, like everybody knows NFL use juice. Professional athletes juice. Like, let me just say that. And it's fine. It's their job. They're trying to get an edge, trying to recover and trying to stay healthy and like do their thing. But like that has some deleterious effects on tendon health, nutrition, like footwear's changing. Who knows? It's really hard to control for all the variables and figure out like what is specifically causing like the uptick in Achilles and knee injuries. But
yeah, it'd be pretty crazy if someone came out and been like ayahuasca caused Aaron Rodgers.
People were like mocking him about that stuff too. Like that was the thing. That's just, I don't know. I hate people that applaud injuries. It made me very sad that he got hurt.
Oh,
I feel for people because like it's tough to come back from that at his age. It's really tough to come back from Achilles injuries. Though we've seen some guys in recent years beat it. But I don't know if you remember like Cadillac Williams.
Oh yeah,
he was a super like hot prospect, and like I think he popped his Achilles, or maybe it was his patella tendon. But either way, yeah, you can't. You can just try to prepare the person as best as you can for their sport.
Yeah,
and like, it's a chance.
I just got like, I think of RG3, like because he was coming up like when I was in high school playing quarterback, and like that whole debacle. I mean, the Redskins were just a garbage organization at that point, but like they had this whole plan, and then they were just like, yeah, we're just gonna throw him in week 1 with like no sports specific activity, like no ramp up period, and just kind of see what happens. And sure enough, and he was
actually I think go read that article. Like I think he definitely talked about inactivity and the lack of ramp up, and that's the hard thing with like pro sports, because a lot of dudes go and train on their own, and like they probably have their little guru that like maybe is a bullshit artist, and they think they're coming into camp.
Joel Seedman trains a lot of guys in the NFL.
And then the other thing is you get hard-headed strength coaches that are probably like, all right, you did whatever, but like now you're on my time, so I'm gonna make you do. And maybe there's just too much ramp up too fast, and who knows, man? It's only they know.
Yeah. Well, I'll wrap this up. I know you gotta go, but this has been awesome.
Yeah, hopefully I'll come on with a little bit more ethos and background in physical therapy the next time. But
you will. I'll think of a name for these. We'll call it like the online ranters roundtable or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you. This was super fun. This is probably the best one I've recorded so far. But
dude, not with all the guys that you had before. Like you got some pretty awesome guests that I listened to on the way up. So yeah, it doesn't exactly fit with your baseball theme. So hopefully people aren't too off it by this entire 2-hour rant that's happened.
No, I think they'll like it. And I think the whole goal of me starting this was never to like make it some sort of like front end funnel. I just wanted to talk to people I enjoy talking to. And I think this is like the exact thing that I was kind of looking for. So you're definitely coming on again, whether you like it or not. We'll who knows? Maybe it'll turn into like a little sit down thing at some point. Maybe it'll be in person. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, it'd be good. We got to do a meetup. We got to definitely do mentorship.
Yes, we do. When everyone's stateside, I think we were like the only. No, there's one other, Alex Cesposito or whatever, that works with Bobby White. He was an American.
Isn't Evan in Pennsylvania too?
Oh yeah, Evan, yeah. So there you go. We can meet in New York City or something.
I'm down. Make it happen. It's gonna be tough when the baby comes in February, but
we'll have to do it before then. I'll organize it.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you, Kreg.
All right. Be well.